Hi, my name is Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do an individual book review video on Ace Voices by Eris Young. So this is a non-fiction that I was kindly sent a review copy on Netgalley by the publisher, and I honestly loved it. It's the first non-fiction that I've actually read all year. And I did want to do a video on it because honestly I thought it was just brilliant. I sped through it in an afternoon. The book is really an overview of ace identities, whether that be asexuality, aromantic, demi, grey, etc. It looks at what different labels can mean for different people. It looks at the historical context, the cultural context. The author, Eris Young, is asexual, grey, aromantic, trans and neurodivergent. So they speak from that point of view, but this is not a memoir, although their experiences are weaved throughout the book. What Eris does in a really clever way is draws in other pieces of non-fiction around ace identities, looking at different studies, and also what they've done in preparing for writing the book is they sent out a survey to people, and 160 people answered the survey for the purposes of this book being created, about their own ace identities, their own experiences, their own coming out, whatever it may be. And so throughout the book we have these paragraphs which are anonymised by these different people, these different voices from all different types of backgrounds, talking about their own identities and what that means for them. And that really brought the book to life for me, and I found it so interesting. The author also looks at intersectionality between ace identities and race, neurodivergence, gender, disability, and again that's enhanced by the viewpoints we get from different people that have been spoken to in the preparation of the book. There's also a really interesting discussion about language and labels, and there is an explanation within the book about the many different sort of labels that people may have for themselves in describing their own identities, and also how different people may not necessarily you consider a label in the same way, and also how labels might not necessarily be helpful. So some people might prefer to use an umbrella term rather than actually try to narrow it down into the specifics of what it means for them. And there was a really interesting quote on this that I just wanted to tell you about in relation to labels. So it says, many of us have to contend with the tension between a dynamic, fluid way of being that resists being put into words and very real social pressure to put it into words regardless, in order for it to exist in the minds of others. And I think that's really interesting, because that's something I think about quite a lot in terms of labels, because I've never quite liked to put a label on myself in different ways, mainly because I don't know, I think it's hard to pin stuff like that down. I don't know, and I guess it's different for different people, isn't it, of course, in terms of how they choose to define themselves and identify. And also this discussion in the book as well, which is really interesting, about how people may change over time, of course, in terms of how they identify, and how that can be, I guess, viewed by other people. The book also touches on how people may want to choose a different label depending on who they're talking to at that time and their own understanding of what that might mean. The main reason I wanted to read this book was because I read the novel Loveless by Alice Oseman earlier this year, and that made me realise how very little I really understood about asexuality and ace identities in general. So when I saw this on Netgalley, I wanted to read it, and honestly it was great, because I feel like I learned an awful lot from reading the book, and I've enhanced my understanding, and I think honestly it was just very enlightening and really interesting. What the author does as well at the end of each chapter is puts like 4 or 5 discussion questions for you to, and it sort of encourages you to reflect on your own, I don't know, assumptions, your own self, your own thoughts, and I thought that was a really great inclusion. The end of the book as well has loads of resources, recommends like books and TV shows with ace representation, which I thought was really great. And the overriding feeling from the book was a real sense of joy and celebration, because I think when people talk about, if we say asexuality, I know asexuality is one part of ace identities, but asexuality is what most people assume is being referred to, you know, and nothing else really. And when people talk about that, it's sort of spoken about as a lack of something, whereas actually what comes through in the book is just so many different ways of being. Like they look at queer platonic relationships as well, which is a term I'd actually never heard before, but you know, it was just really great. And there was a quote I wanted to read actually on that as well. Okay, so it says, "It seems to me that rather than missing out on anything, ace, arrow, demi and grey A people are finding new ways to love, new and alternative relationships that suit our needs, new ways to live our lives." And I thought that was honestly just really great, and that sort of sums up the whole tone of the book. So the book is published in the UK on the 21st of December 2022. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would highly recommend it if it's something that you are interested in reading about. And thank you again to Netgalley and the publisher for a review copy. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye.